Welcome back to another profile review. We're finally getting to it. We're finally getting to Madbuck's review. This one is well overdue, but it is an absolute beefy account with about 14 years in the making. Their first trophy was in Burnout Paradise, and it is a massive account as he narrows in on, I believe, 500 platinum trophies. He's 7 off with 493 overall. But let's just jump in, shall we? Let's get into this absolute beast of an account. Alrighty, and to get the ball rolling, we have Root Letter, which is a very good game I've heard. I've definitely been recommended this one a few times. We then follow it with the visual novel in 2046, Read Only Memories, which I believe is one that has a lot of endings. Probably not my cup of tea then. I don't like things like Detroit Become Human, which only has 2.5, I can't quite remember, but this is another one here. We then have 3D Dot Game Heroes, which is an ultra rare trophy to 3.13%, followed by a double stack of 428 Shibuya Scramble, which is another one that I've definitely been recommended a few times on this very series. We then follow with the very charming platformer In a Hat in Time, which is one that I actually really want to play at some point. Now, I have heard base game, pretty easy. You can see with the platinum being a 34.99%, nearly a 35%, but the 100% is a 2.18. And if we were to go into this, I think you've got a lot of ultra rares in the DLC from memory. Or maybe one, or maybe none, but you can see that the percentages are significantly lower than the platinum itself. We then have A King's Tale Final Fantasy 15, which is a spin-off of Final Fantasy 15. I think it's a prelude from memory. Do correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. We then have A Plague Tale Innocence, No Plague Tale Requiem. I think that's the one that came out last year. I assume that you're getting onto that at some point, Madbuck, but you do have the first game in a day and 4 hours. We then have a double stack of Aru's Awakening, which is a very low completion, no platinum, but a lovely 100%. Madbuck's account, you will see a lot of 100%, which is something I actually really appreciate. It's something that I want to do myself. Been trying to make more of an effort to do 100% that don't have a platinum, because oftentimes they're actually banging good games. We then have Abzu, which is essentially a walking simulator, but you are a diver exploring various different ruins in an ocean. Actual Sunlight is next, followed by Adventure Capitalist, which is one where you are essentially becoming a capitalist, acquiring different sources of income, building your wealth, all that fun stuff. Things I fail to do in real life. Agatha Christie's The ABC Murders is next, which is actually a point and click, I believe, and it's one that I really want to do at some point myself. I have heard fairly good things about this one. We then have AI The Somnium Files, followed by Alice Madness Returns, which is a fantastic, really dark take on Alice in Wonderland. It's a really good platformer too. It's based on a game that came out in the early 2000s, and then this is the sequel that came out in 2009-ish, I believe. We then have Altered Beast, followed by Amnesia Memories, which is a visual novel spin-off that I've heard is actually really dark and really, really good. I've had a few people recommend this one to me in the comments of various different Platinums. Ape Escape, classic from the PS1 era. It's a collectathon, essentially. You're collecting different bananas and monkeys, I think, from memory. I haven't played this again. You can say he did it in July of last year now, which, by the way, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. If this is how you're spending the first few days watching me, then fair enough. But you can see he did it in July of last year. That's when the game came out free on PS Plus. It's one that I definitely need to do myself at some point. I assume, Madbuck, you don't have a PS5, because the game is also on the PS5 with a separate trophy list. We then have Apotheon, which is a side-scrolling game based on sort of Greek pottery and stuff like that, the artwork that you see on different bits of Greek pottery. It's a really, really cool concept. This is definitely very high on my to-do list at some point. You can see that you can beat it in a day, but it's a very interesting game. I played a little bit. My only big complaint is the map is also gold, so the art style is very similar to the thumbnail there, which I'll be able to zoom in on to give you a... No, I won't, because it's off the screen. I'm a professional, I swear. But you can see the gold sort of coloring here. this is what the art style of the game is also based on. And so the map is also that color, which means that when you put it on, it's an overlay. You can't see where you are or where you're going, which is a bit interesting. Origami is a very fast-paced ninja sort of game. Arcania is a big RPG that I thought was an ultra rare. I'm surprised to see it's actually a 7.6%. We then have a Kato Series 01 Jump, 02 Swap, and 03 Pixel, followed by, this is juicy. Why have I waited so long to do your account, Mad Buck? This is, chef's kiss. You love to see it. Assassin's Creed for days. We've got Brotherhood twice, Chronicles China. The Chronicles on the Vita there being a combination of all 3 episodes, but we've got China, India, and Russia standalone on the PS4. The Trilogy Pack, which once again is the combination of all 3, with the Platinum at the end, which is the version I own and need to do at some point. Freedom Cry standalone twice. Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed 3 twice. Obviously the servers are down on the PS3, which means you can't actually do those anymore. Liberation only once. You haven't gone around to Liberation Remastered. That's one you might want to get onto at some point soon. Black Flag twice. Never mind, there's Liberation Remastered. That is, because the 3's in front of it. Okay. Liberation HD, Odyssey, Origins, Revelations twice, with the servers once again being shut down, as you can see there on the PS3. Rogue twice. Syndicate, Unity, and Valhalla has only been started but not completed. You were working on this 2 months ago now, I guess. That is a beefy one. That is one that I'm forever trying to catch up on. I believe they've finally stopped doing DLCs for the game, so no more trophies. But that Ragnarok DLC is $60 Australian for the DLC. It's like a 12-hour DLC. I'm not doing that. I'm not forking that money out for a stupid God spin-off that isn't particularly great in my opinion. So I'll wait for that to be a deep sale myself before I knock out that 100%. Also, Ubisoft did what they do best. They chucked a stupid roguelike in a DLC. I'm over this. Far Cry 6 or whatever it is had far too many of them. And now this one has it as well. So yay. We then have both Astro Bot games in Rescue Mission and Playroom. We've got the Atelier games here with Atelier Aisha, the Alchemist of Dusk, Atelier Escher and Logi, the Alchemist of the Dusk Sky, and Atelier Shaylee, the Alchemist of the Dusk Sea, which hurt me to read at that speed, so I deserve an Oscar for being able to pull that off. Unless I got it completely and utterly wrong with the pronunciation, which I'm sure everyone will let me know. We then only have the first Back to the Future here, followed by a beefy stack of Batmans. We've got Arkham Asylum 3 times, City twice, Night once, Origins, which is the one with the multiplayer once. Origins Blackgate is the Vita side-scrolling spin-off, but is also on the PlayStation 3. We've got the VR version of Arkham, which essentially is just detective mode from memory. And then we have both Telltale games, with the first one having the double stack. We've got some Bentley's Hack Pack here, which is a spin-off of, what's it called? The raccoon one. Why can't I remember it? The one on the PS3. It's like a mascot of the PS3. I'm sure we'll get to the rest of them. The Thievius Raccoonus is the first game. I can't think of what the series is actually called. I'm having a breakdown right now. But we then have Beyond Good and Evil 2, the first one HD. I think the second one's the one that's like atrociously bad. Beyond Two Souls, followed by only 4 Bioshocks. I was actually expecting like a big stack of these, but we have the first game, the second game, Infinite twice, all with the DLC done, which is very good work because a lot of that DLC is really annoying and boring arenas, which is just a great way to do your DLC. We've got Blocker Pix Deluxe, which is a sort of easy peasy sort of game on the Vita. I think you just color in different stuff like a coloring book. Only 1 Borderlands, which is very surprising to see. This is followed by, I would say, one of the most impressive games we've seen so far, besides of course my Assassin's Creed love, in Bound, which is like an indie speedrunning sort of game. You've got to beat the game without dying. You've got to beat the game in under an hour, I believe it is. It's Interesting. I can't say that I like the art style that much in Bound, but that is definitely very impressive, and you did it very, very fast, which is awesome to see there, Madbuck. We then have Broken Age, which is I believe a side scroller. It's one that I actually really want to do myself. I've owned that game for years. It might have even been a Plus game, but this is one that I want to do myself at some point. We've got some Broken Swords with 5 The Serpent's Curse, Episode 1 and 2. Brothers Atala Two Sons is a really good top-down, side-scrolly sort of game. It's got a really weird mechanic. I'll grab my controller to show it. So you play 2 brothers at once, and the way that they do it is each brother is controlled by a thumbstick. So one of them will be controlled by this one of them will be controlled by this one, and you got to do a lot of puzzles. It hurts the brain. I'm now bald because of it. But it was a very fun game, very, very short. Madbuck did in about 2 days. I think I did it in like a single sitting of like 3 hours. So, but it's a lot of fun. Definitely one I'd recommend. Bully, which is Rockstar GTA, but in a school, but you also have to do classes and stuff, which is very, very cool. We've got Burnout Paradise and the Remaster, which is a game with an absolute phenomenal soundtrack. I adore it so much. And then we move on to the Seas. Moving on to the Seas, we only have a single Call of Duty, which hurts my soul, in Modern Warfare Remastered. I'm curious, will you at least be doing Modern Warfare 2 Remastered at some point? We then have Call of Juarez Bound in Blood, which is the bad, the bad one's Devil's Cartel. This one's actually pretty good from memory. Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse. We then have some Castle Storm twice, Celeste, which is a really fun side-scrolling platformer that is very, very difficult to collect all the strawberries, unless of course you are using the invincibility cheats, which at 2 days and 19 hours, Madbuck, I might be onto you here. I've got my eyes on you, mate. But we then have Chaos of Deponia. Only one Deponia game. Actually, no, because they're not all in alphabetical order, because there's words in front of Deponia, of course. Chaos Child twice. Chicken Police is a really fun sort of detective mystery where every character is an animal. Actually, really good one. I would recommend that one. Got some annoying trophies where you got to collect all the different bits of information about everyone, which can be a bit finicky, but there are good guides for it. We then have Child of Light, which is an Ubisoft side-scrolling game where essentially everything is very poetic. All the dialogue is in poem form, I guess. I guess that's what you call that. But it's very interesting, definitely one I need to go back and do myself at some point. I started it once and I wasn't a big fan of controlling the little firefly with the right stick, but after playing things like Lost Words and adoring them, I think I will go back to Child of Light and actually really like it quite a bit. We then have Clockwork Tales of Glass and Ink, which I believe is like an Ice Spice sort of game, kind of like Egging Madness. We then have Coconut Dodge Revitalized, which has a crab on it, so I'm now very, very curious about this game. Code Realize, Bouquet of Rainbows, Guardian of Rebirth, and Wintertime Miracles. Are these the same as Code Vein? I don't believe so. I don't believe these are the same as Code Vein, but do let me know if that is the case. Color Guardians, we then have some Concrete Genie, which was the first game I actually ever streamed. I haven't streamed in a hot minute, sadly, but this was the first game I ever streamed, and I met a very wonderful friend of mine streaming this game. It's a very wholesome story for you all today. But we then have Contrast, followed by Conquest. Can't speak. If I just periodically start melting, it's because it's like 30 degrees Australian right now, and I'm absolutely cooking with all these lights and stuff on. So if you like your symmetry well done instead of medium rare, you're in for a treat today. But we then have Costume Quest 1 and 2, followed by Counter Spy, which was a multiplayer game, which I believe all the trophies are unattainable. It's only one unattainable, but I think it's something dumb like the tutorial. Let's go have a cheeky geese, shall we? I think it's the tutorial. No, Looter Rival Agent. Okay, so only one trophy is technically online only, and it is that one, which tragically is now unavailable. We then have the Crash Bandicoots with the first game, second, third, fourth, and the racing game. I think they've just announced another Crash Bandicoot very recently, so I assume that'll be absolutely on your radar. We then have the first Crisis, which of course is free on Plus now. You did in 2 days. I think it's about an 8-hour plat from memory. Definitely one that I intend to do myself at some point. Hashtag I only play easy games. Hashtag. We then had the Danganronpa series with 2 Goodbye Despair. Another episode, Ultra Despair Girls, which is a heading and a half. And then V3 Killing Harmony. These are obviously JRPGs that I believe are like... I believe they're beat 'em up turn-based. I'm probably completely wrong at this. Please crucify me in the comments if I did get that wrong. We then have Dante's Inferno, which is an amazing God of War clone. The original God of War's, not the Last of Us clones that we get these days. But hack and slash, you're a knight that goes into hell, to the 7 layers of hell to rescue your girlfriend, essentially. It's a great game. It's hack and slash. It's very, very gory. It's got annoying DLC to get a hold of these days, but otherwise, brilliant game, absolutely fantastic. One I really want to do myself at some point, but I refuse to add PS3 to my collection because then my backlog would explode. We then have the Darksiders games. We actually have all of them here with the first game Twice, Genesis, which is, so each... I'll just explain this real quick. Each Darksiders game is kind of like a clone of another popular series at the time, which is very interesting. So the first Darksiders is definitely a Metroidvania. Think things like Zelda. We then have Darksiders Genesis, which is a 2-player, top-down co-op thing, much in the same way as Diablo. We then have Darksiders 2, which went very, very RPG, so think things like Skyrim. You got different loot that has different armor and all that sort of stuff, has different attributes. And then Darksiders 3 is 100% a Souls clone, which I actually kind of like that one. And I'm very, I love seeing that series at 100% completion. I actually think that might be the first time we've seen every Darksiders game on an account, which is awesome. We then have Day of the Tentacle, which is a point-and-click game by LucasArts. One of their last games, I believe, before they shut, or is it a remaster from the early 2000s? I can't quite remember. We then have Daytona USA, followed by De Blob 2 Twice, a lot of blobs, followed by Deadly Premonition, which is a hack and slash, Deadpool, which is obviously based on the Marvel superhero of the same name, which I believe for a very long time was delisted from the store, but I think you can get it now. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Our first Souls game in Demon Souls. It's interesting you've got this one, but you don't have Dark Souls 1, 2, or 3. We then have 2 more Deponias with Deponia and Deponia Doomsday, followed by Detroit Become Human, which is a David Cage game about robots that cry. It's not great in my opinion. Clancy Brown is fantastic in it. His character arc with the robot with an android called Connor is very, very interesting. It explores some themes that are actually pretty good and well done, but the other stories definitely fall apart in my opinion, and doing the game 2.5 times was awful. We then have Detuned, followed by Deus Ex Human Revolution, which is the one that's kind of annoying. I think you have to beat this one without ever being detected or having anyone ever find bodies, which is easier said than done. I know some people that are currently slowly chipping away through the Deus Ex games. We only have one we do have 2 Devil May Cries, but we have the original here with the no, that's not the original, that's the remake with the white hair, isn't it? That's the one no one likes, I think, from memory. Followed by Disney Epic Mickey 2, The Power of 2. It's a lot of 2s in one heading, hurts my brain. Followed by, I believe, the original Devil May Cry here. We then have some Doctor Who, which is obviously, of course, the very, very popular British TV show that I've only ever watched 1 episode of. I've seen the Weeping Angels episode, where when you turn away, they get closer, which kind of reminds me of my university exams. We then follow that with Doki Doki Universe Twice, followed by some Doodle Devil, some Doodle God, and some Doodle Kingdom. That is a lot of doodle. We then have some Downwell, followed by the Dragon Quest games. You've got the full 100% of the Dragon Quests, which is actually really, really cool to see, with the second game and Inquisition having quite a lot of really annoying DLC, and Origins actually having really fantastic DLC. We then have some Dragon Quests here. You don't have Builders 2, which is currently the Platinum Standards Game of the Month, where we all play the game and I do a video on it at the end of the month. So if you do want to join that and get that game out of the way, Madbuck, it is free on PS Plus, and anyone else who wants to get involved on that, do join the Platinum Standard Discord. The link will be in the description below. And download the game, play through it, let me know your thoughts, and that'll be in a video at the end of the month. But we do have the Dragon Quest here with Heroes 2, The World's Tree, Woe, and The Blight Below, which is the dumbest name ever. Echoes of an Elusive Age, which is the traditional RPG compared to the previous two, were both kind of like Dynasty Warriors clones. Echoes of the Elusive Age is a classic RPG and is one that I really want to play at some point. We then have some Dragon's Crown, followed by one of the most underrated RPGs of all time in Dragon's Dogma: Dark Arisen, which is absolutely fantastic. I love the pawn system in this game. It's brilliant, in all honesty. It's absolutely brilliant. We then follow this with Drive Club, which are all obviously unobtainable due to licensing of the different real-world vehicles having expired. Dust and Elysian Tale, Dynasty Warriors 6, Enslaved Odyssey to the West is a fantastic, underrated PS3 game. We've got some Entwined, some Erica, which is kind of like a horror game, I guess. It's got a lot of endings from memory. You did it in 3 days, which is pretty impressive. And we wrap up the E's with Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which is a walking sim. And moving into the F's, we've got some Far Cry's here with Far Cry 3 twice, the remaster and the one on PS3, and Blood Dragon, which is an absolutely fantastic spin-off, very 80s vibe. It's got Michael Biehn as the voice actor. What's not to love there? We then have some Fez, and then we get into quite a chunk of Final Fantasies here. Not the most we've ever seen on PlatinumNat, but definitely a very big burst here with Final Fantasy Type 0, Final Fantasy 7, the original one on the PS1 that looks like Play-Doh these days, but is the better of the two, and I will die on that hill. We then have Final Fantasy 7 Remake on the PS5, so you do have a PS5, interesting. Which is where you've done the DLC, which I believe is exclusive to the PS5 version. With Final Fantasy 8, 10, 13, 13-2 to wrap them all up. We then have Firewatch, which is a fantastic walking sim, followed by Freedom Wars, some Frozen Synapse, some Cheeky Fury here twice, doing them both very fast too, with the first game obviously being considerably lower in rarity because of the PS5 version. You can auto pop. We then have some Futuridium EP Deluxe, followed by some Game of Thrones here. This is the Telltale one, which I've talked very in depth with over the year, I guess. I guess we're getting on to what, just over half a year, maybe we're getting to half a year. I'm not entirely sure. I can't count. We then have one of your favorite games, I believe, definitely one you've recommended to me in the Platinum Standard Discord, in Genshin Impact, which is a free-to-play MMO that is absolutely massive, and very impressive that you are working on both versions. I know, as you can see, the PS4 version doesn't even have a Platinum trophy, but the PS5 does, and as you can see with the Platinum in 1 second, it can be auto-popped. We then have some Ghost Runner here, which is one of my absolute favorite games. Definitely one of the best ones that I played last year. Let me know if you want me to do a top 10 on the best games that I actually played last year, much in the same way as I did my top 10 releases and top worst releases of last year. We then have some Giana Sisters, Twisted Dreams, followed by an absolute stack of God of Wars. I think you have all of them but Ragnarok. Definitely looks like it. We have the first game, the Last of Us clone, the first game Part 2, God of War 2, God of War Part 2, Part 2, God of War 3, God of War 3, Part 3, Electric Boogaloo, God of War Ascension, God of War Chains of Olympus, and we're wrapping it up with Ghost of Sparta. So you have all of them, but of course Ragnarok, which came out last year at the very end and is fantastic-ish, kind of, maybe, sort of. It's just good. It might be better than good. I don't know. It depends on the day I think about it. We then have Gone Home, which you did in about an hour and 20 minutes, which I think might be the exact same amount of time it took me to get that game. We then have some Goodbye Deponia, which I think is the last one. I think there's 4, and I think you've done all 4. We then have, oh, that's juicy. That right there is juicy. We've got some Gran Turismo 5, which is A, unobtainable, B, an Ultra of 0.57, and C is a game you must have mastered the driving wheel on. I remember Plat Dan from Plat Chums, absolutely fantastic channel, do go check them out, talking about this game in depth. and how it is an absolute beast. So it's very impressive to see that there. It took you 8 years and 6 months. Fantastic. I think that's the best we've seen so far, but you do follow it with another absolute heavyweight here with GTA 5. You've done the 100%, which means you've done the Doomsday heists. I actually don't think that the base game of GTA 5 is that special. I certainly think the campaign is very bog average, but that 100% is juicy goosey. We then have some Gravity Rush with the first game, the second game, and the remaster of the first game. Of course, games that absolutely held the Vita up and made the Vita a real contender for a bit of time there. Very good. I believe they're both free on Plus. I think one you need Deluxe for and one you need Extra for, but they are both absolutely fantastic games. We then get some Grim Fandango, which is a point-and-click game where you play as a skeleton. Another one that is on my to-do list at some point. I've heard very good things about this. You see it in everyone's 30-day Platinum Challenges because it is just a solid, really good game. We've got some Grim Legends, followed by Gris. I think it's Gris, it's French. Side-scroller, very artsy, very, very, very good game. It's essentially, you just walk, you're walking left and right. There might be one or two puzzles, but absolutely fantastic game. You did it in about the same time that it takes to do it. It took me a couple days. I remember I struggled with missing some of the collectibles because I'm a silly dum-dum. But it's a fantastic game overall. We've got some Grow Home, followed by Grow Up, which is something I definitely need to do at some point, followed by Guacamelee and Guacamelee 2. And I believe Super Turbo Championship is a remaster of the first game. We've got some Hakodo Edo Blossoms and some Hakodo Kyoto Winds. I hope I pronounced both of those right. Followed by a game that is essentially a clone of Twisted Metal in Hardware Rivals here, which is also shut down because it was online only. We've got the essentially Gears of War clone Harry Potter's, which is a title I never thought I would give anything. Not particularly good games. Half-Blood Prince actually might be decent, but I remember Deathly Hallows Part 1 being complete and utter shite. We then have some Hateo Boyfriend, which is a game where you date pigeons. Yeah, yep, fair enough. Hatsu Miku Project Diva F, and the second game, followed by Future Tone. We've got some Heavy Rain here, which is another David Cage game where your son gets kidnapped and you must find him. It's probably my favorite David Cage game, which is kind of like picking your favorite your favorite type of water. Like, okay. Hitman Go, followed by Hob, followed by Horizon Chase Turbo, which I thought was unobtainable. That must still be up. Interesting. I've heard very mixed things. Some people adore Horizon Chase Turbo. Some people swear on it being the worst game of all time. You've got the good Horizon game. Congratulations. Shame they've never made a sequel for this game. Followed by Hotline Miami, which is a top-down, much like the classic GTAs, where it's essentially the classic GTAs, but you play as a dude slaughtering a bunch of people in places like nightclubs and stuff like that. Very fun game. I do own both Hotline Miamis. I should play them at some point. I just have the never-ending backlog. We then have IQ Intelligence Cube, which is another very short game that I should do at some point. Maybe I'll do that this afternoon after this recording, or maybe I'll go sit in a puddle for 4 hours because I'm cooking. We then have some Ico, followed by Ubisoft's answer to Breath of the Wild, but worse, in Immortals Phoenix Rising. I take it you didn't like it either, based on the fact that it is surrounded in an absolute sea of 100%, and then it's there with a C. I didn't like it, and Mad Buck, I hate to tell you this, but the DLC is so much worse than the base game. You're at the easy stuff, you're at the fun stuff. You then get to the DLC, and it is pain. We then get the Infamous series here with the first game, the second game, the weird, awesome spin-off with vampires to the second game, First Light, which is the arena-based one, and personally my least favorite, and then Second Sons, which is, I think it was their idea of a reboot. It was okay. It was nothing special. Very forgettable in all honesty. We then get some Invisimals Lost Kingdom, followed by the Jak games with Jak 3 times, the first game 3 times, and the second game 3 times. What's impressive to me, and of course Combat Racing, which is that weird Mario Kart Crash Tag Team Racing spin-off that they did. That's not particularly great from memory. But I am impressed that you didn't use the debug menu for Jak 2. We then get some Jetpack Joyride, which was a iOS game that got ported across, followed by Joe Danger 2, the movie, and some Journey, which is a very hard one to do these days. I don't know why, but me and a mate, we just could not link up to do the co-op because you got to beat the whole game with another person. We just couldn't do that to save our lives, unfortunately. We then have Judgment, which is made by the folks that did the Yakuza games. I believe you play as a detective who is in a school or something like that, from memory. We then have some Katamari Damacy here with Reroll, and Forever. This is where you play as a ball that sucks up different objects and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. These games are fantastic, and I definitely really want to do at least the ones on the PS4. I think there's 2 of them. You have 1, but I think there's 2. We then have Killzone Shadowfall, which unfortunately, let me have a look here. The multiplayer is down. You can still do the single player though. I'm gonna hesitate to guess. Oh, you've done it. You've done it, you beautiful bastard. You've done it. I'm very, very proud, Mad Buck. You just have a very average campaign ahead of you, but that multiplayer was not too awful. I went and did the DLC right before closure, and I did the spin-off, Killzone Shadowfall Insurgent or whatever it was called. I did that as well. Wouldn't recommend it, but well, you can't do it now, but it was very, very boring at the time. You've also done Mercenaries, which was the Vita's Killzone, which was kind of really good, except for the grindy trophies for killing. I believe it's 10,000 enemies. But you then, look at this. We then have an absolute truckload of Kingdom Hearts games, with the first game, 02 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage, 358-2 Days, Birth by Sleep twice, Dream Drop Distance, Kingdom Hearts 2 twice, Kingdom Hearts 3 twice, Melody of a Memory, Melody of Memories twice, and Recoded, which is I think that's all of them. I think you've done every single Kingdom Hearts, which makes me look bad because I haven't done one of them. But it's absolutely fantastic there. But what is even more impressive to me is the Kingdoms of Amalur here, which was essentially Kurt Schilling, who was some random baseballer in the US, decided he wanted to make a single player World of Warcraft. So he gathered a bunch of people like Salvador, absolute veterans in the industry, had worked on stuff like Oblivion, made a single player World of Warcraft that's kind of pretty good. I really enjoyed it. I've never done the DLC. It is on the PS4 now, so I'll probably get around to that at some point. But which it looks like you were working on a little bit last year. But it is definitely one I intend to do at some point. And you've smashed out the PS3 one. I think the DLC was unobtainable for ages, so I assume it's good now if you have the 100%. We then have both Knack games, which are essentially collectathons. One was a launch title for the PS4 of all things. Kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time. We then have some Kung Fu Rabbit here with 2 stacks of it on the PS3 and the Vita. Some LA Noire, which is one of the last massive games an Australian company did, although I will say Cult of the Lamb, one of my favourite games last year, was made by a Melbourne studio, Melbourne being one of the big cities in Australia, so that's pretty cool. We then get some Lara Croft here with Guardians of Light, The Temple of Osiris, and Go, which is the weird tile slidey sort of one. We've got some Legend of K Anniversary. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Legend of K is a tie-in to the Avatar series, Avatar being the anime one and not the weird blue people. We then have the Lego games here, which is DC Superheroes twice, Beyond Gotham 3 times, Lego City Undercover, Supervillains, Harry Potter 1 to 4 and 5 to 7. Geez, we got some Harry Potters here. We got them both twice, actually. No, we got some of them 3 times. Is it all three times? Hold on. 1 to 4, 1 to 4. No, okay, so you got the first, you got 1 to 4 twice, and you've got 5 to 7 3 times. That is a lot of Harry Potter. I haven't even watched the movies in like a decade, so maybe I've got to catch up. Maybe I do these games very, very soon. Maybe I do them for the category comp, actually, which is a competition that we're running in the Platinum Standard Discord. Link in the description below. where essentially you've got to try and beat a game in each genre. There's 43 of them by the end of the year. If you do it before the end of the year, like if you're Aiden Sam, who'll do it in like 4 days, then we've got a prestige system where you keep going for exclusive badges. But moving back to this, we've got Lego Indiana Jones 2, followed by Twice, followed by Jurassic World, Legend of Chima, which has a Lion Man on the front, which is interesting. Lego Marvel Superheroes Twice, Lego Marvel Superheroes Heroes in Peril, which is the Vita spin-off, The Avengers, Lego Movie 2, which is the really bad one, Lego Movie the video game three times, definitely 3 times, Ninjago, Ninjroids, Shadow of Ronin. I'm going to die before I get to the end of the Lego games. You don't have Lego Worlds yet. That's the one that I'm really going to base this on, mate. That's the one I'm waiting for. But Lego Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars, Star Wars The Force Awakens Twice. That's a glitch. That one doesn't actually exist. Don't mind that one, even though you're working on it currently. That's actually just a glitch. Lego The Hobbit Twice, The Incredibles, The Lord of the Rings Twice. No Lego Worlds. I'm done. I'm out of here. But we then have some Letter Quest, followed by Life is Strange, the first game, and the prequel to the first game, No True Colors, which is, in my opinion, the best one, the only good one, personally. And then Life is Strange 2, which is the one I haven't tried, but I've heard is utter trash. We then get some Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy 13, followed by Limbo, which is a fantastic game, like a little side-scroller dark one. I should do this one at some point. There is a trophy for beating it without dying more than 5 times. However, I do think you can save scum it. And I mean, I beat Little Nightmares 1, as you did here as well, which is actually pretty challenging. That beating it in an hour without dying, kind of difficult. I did do a video on it. It is on the channel. Go have a quick look if you want to see my suffering. We then get some Little Big Planet here with the first game, the second game, the weird spin-off golf karting one, and the Vita game, followed by Lumo. Alrighty, and moving into the M's, we've got the first Mafia game. Not 2 and 3 are those games that you do plan on doing at some point, mate. Followed by Mahjong, which I assume if you've got this one, you're going to be a pro at the Yakuzas and should have them all below, otherwise I'll be incredibly disappointed. We then have just the first Marvel Spider-Man, no Miles Morales. Maybe keep that one off until we do that for a monthly game, wink wink, nudge nudge. The Mass Effect quadrilogy with the first 3 games, platinumed and 100%ed. Andromeda exists. You do have that one, and I'm sure it makes you very sad. We then have Maze Mystery, The Secret of Dragonville, followed by Medieval, which is a remaster of the classic PS1 hack and slash adventure game. Metal Gear Revenge, which is like a spin-off of the Metal Gear series, wherein you play, it's a hack and slash game where you play as Raiden with a very big sword. Metrico, only one Metro game, with the second one in Last Light. I would definitely say go back and do at least 2033, but also Exodus is pretty good. We then have the first Middle of Earth game with Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year. You've done The Hunt Is My Mistress, which is very, very impressive because that trophy definitely sucks. It's a time trial one where you've got to essentially get a bunch of stuff done in under an hour. Mini Ninjas, followed by the 2 Mirror's Edge games, which are first-person, fast-paced platformers that are very, very fun. MLB 13 The Show, which you did in 9 minutes. Very, very quick. And I think that's the first MLB The Show. I don't know if they do those anymore. We then have some Monster Bag, followed by the MotoGP 13. Some MotorStorm RC. Twice. We've got some MotorStorm Apocalypse. Some Mousecraft Murasaki Baby, Naruto Shippuden Ultra Ninja Storm 2, some Naruto Ultra Shippuden Ninja Storm, the first one. You've done the first one, but you haven't done the second one. Are these the games that have cards or something mixed in them? I remember seeing there's a game with cards or something where you got to get a set of cards each week, otherwise they reset for the next week, and there's like 5 or 6 weeks worth of cards. We then get into the Need for Speeds, and we've got quite a few of them here with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, which is a very, very fun one. Payback, Hot Pursuit once again on the PS3, We then got Most Wanted, which is, I don't think is the one from the original Xbox or the PlayStation 2, which was my first Need for Speed and is literal perfection. I think that one is on the Vita though, maybe. So maybe it is this one, I'm not entirely sure. And then of course Rivals to round it out. I would be curious to see if you do plan on doing Heat at some point, or whatever the newest one is called. We then have some Nelson Tether's Puzzle Agent, followed by Never Alone, which is another one that I really plan on doing at some point. Some Ni no Kuni, which is like anime, Pokemon, RPG, Pokemon with a really grim start. Some Nightmares from the Deep with all three games, The Siren's Call, Davy Jones, and The Cursed Heart. Some Nights into Dreams, Nor 9 Var Commons, which I've never heard of before. Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is part of the Oddworld games. This is the weird one though. This is the one that came out, I think this was originally just an original Xbox exclusive, and it was set in like a Wild West theme. And it's completely different from the rest of the series from memory. We've got some One Piece here with Pirate Warriors 1 and 2, followed by Onrush, which is now of course unattainable because of server closures. This was a fast-paced, essentially Mario Kart style thing where you had to try and destroy your rivals. Oxenfree is another one I really want to do at some point. I've heard very, very good things about. We've got some Pac-Man, followed by Paint Park Plus, which is another sort of easier colouring in Vita game. Papa and Yo, we've got quite a lot of Persona here with 5 Royal, 5 Strikers, and 5 Dancing in Starlight. I would be curious to see if you plan on going and doing 4 and any of its counterparts, or 3 and any of its counterparts. We then have Phineas and Ferb, which is based on a show that used to be back on Cartoon Network like a decade ago. I don't know if it's still running. I'm no longer a child. We then have Phineas, well, sort of. We then have Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which is one where you play as a judge who has to look into and solve different cases and then defend people at court. Then we have quite a lot of pick and picks here with Classic 2, Color 2, all spelt wrong, spell them like the English and Australian way. And then Pix the Cat twice, followed by Pixel Junk Shooter Ultimate, Planet 51, some PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which was their answer to Super Smash Bros. So you've got things like Kratos and Nathan Drake versing one another. PlayStation Home is the introduction to the Vita, like a little introductory tutorial sort of thing. We've got some Port Royal 3, quite a lot of Prince of Persia here, which doesn't surprise me given your list of Assassin's Creeds. But we have the original game, Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sands, The Sands of Time, The Two Thrones, and The Warrior Within. I think by the time of The Two Thrones and The Warrior Within, the series had sort of really started to go downhill. But the originals are actually very, 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 very good. We then had some PES in Pro Evolution Soccer 2014, some Proteus, not Proteus though, which is a brilliant game you should look into. Prototype 2, which is essentially what if you were a superhero who wasn't and was a villain and murdered the absolute hell out of everyone. It's fantastic, it's good fun, but I do remember the trophies being kind of balls. Psycho-Pass Mandatory Happiness is a a visual novel sort of game with a bunch of endings. I think there's like 18 or something from memory, which is quite a few. We then have some Psychonauts, some Puppeteer, Race the Sun, Raging Loop, Rainbow Moon, which is a no, I was going to say Harvest Moon. I'm not entirely sure what Rainbow Moon is. Do let me know in the comments below. We've got a bunch of Ratchet & Clanks. In fact, we might have all of them here. We've got the first game, the 2016 movie tie-in remaster, the first game again, the second game, Going Commando, which is the second game, again, Up Your Arsenal, which is the third game, twice, A Crack in Time, which is the one where you go like through different time periods, All for One, which is the 4-player co-op one, Full Frontal Assault, Into the Nexus. I don't know what those two are. I stopped caring at that point. And then Rift Apart, which is the very, very pretty PS5 game. It's okay. It's very, very pretty. But that's kind of all it had going for it, in my opinion. Like, I didn't really... The original games are so much better, in my opinion. But it was okay. You know, I took about the same amount of time. I think I beat it in about a day, 2 days, same as you did, Mad Buck. But in my opinion, all it had going for it was the prettiness. And to round out the Ratchets, we have Deadlocked. We then have the Rayman games with Rayman Legends twice, Origins and 3D, Raised, Reality Fighters, some Red Dead 2, 100%ed, Chef's Kiss, you love to see that one. That is a very big one that you got to definitely work for quite a bit. We then have some Redout, some Remember Me. Definitely remember me with a cheeky subscribe if you've made it this far. We then get into the Resident Evils with the first game, the really average at best, 0. It's kind of annoying. The rest of them have inventory boxes. You fill the inventory, go to a box, you can stash it for later. Got puzzle pieces you don't need right now, go chuck them in the box, you'll be great. 0 took that idea and got rid of it. And it works about as well as my hairline. You've essentially just got to just dump your stuff and then go back for it. Enemies respawn. So hope you've got lots of ammo, because if you're doing a lot of backtracking, you're killing the same enemies over and over again without getting the same bullets back, which is not fun. We then have 2, 3, and 4. I would be curious, are you planning on doing the 4 remaster when that comes out in, I believe, February? We then have some Resogun, which I believe was also a launch title for the PS4, perhaps? Obviously, it's on PS3 and Vita as well, but I think it was there at launch. Riggs Motorized Combat League is a big robot sort of game. We then have Rime, which was my first platinum on Symmetry. I love this little indie platformer. Riptide, some Rise of the Tomb Raider, 100% very impressive. That is a sucky list. You've got to do a bunch of time trials, a bunch of score attacks, some weird co-op that surprisingly was pretty fun. I've done that one myself. There's a thing with zombies. It's a whole thing. Risen 3, very average RPG at best. Weird pirate RPG, kind of broken, sort of works, sort of doesn't. One I kind of want to do at some point, because I played the original Risens on the PS3, because I have bad taste. We then have some Robotics Notes Dash and Notes Elite, followed by Rogue Legacy, which I believe might have been made by the people who did Hades eventually. This is an early one from them, I believe. Maybe do let me know if I'm wrong. We've got some Sackboy spin-offs who Run Sackboy Run and Sackboy A Big Adventure, followed by a lot of Sam and Max with The Devil's Playhouse, Episode 1, The Penal Zone, Episode 2, The Tomb of Summum McDonald's is what I like to think that says. Episode 3, They Stole Max's Brain, Give It Back, You Bullies. Episode 4, Beyond the Alley of the Domino's Pizza, Beyond the Alley of the Domino's Pizza place. That's that one right there. It's a very good one. They've got garlic bread back there, believe it or not. And then the last one, The City That Dares Not Watch a Video of Symmetries Without Subscribing. We then have some Sayonara Wild Hunts, which is a very fast like runner, side scroller, auto runner. I'm not entirely sure how you would describe it, but it is a fantastic game, and you did it in an hour. That is scary fast. We've got some Sharks. Okay. Some Severed, which I've heard is very, very good. Shadow of the Colossus. You climb very big monsters and stab them real good. Which is a great description in all honesty. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Think Rise of the Tomb Raider, but bad. Shadow Warrior 3, absolutely amazing first-person hack and slash that was very briefly free on Plus. Sadly, it no longer is. Very, very fun, maybe a little bit repetitive. I was kind of overkilling enemies by the end of the game, but I had an absolute blast. We then have a chunk of Sherlocks here. We have Chapter 1, which is actually one I really want to do. Do let me know if that is worth picking up, because I think it is on sale, and I kind of want to do it. Crimes and Punishment, The Devil's Daughter, which is the one I have done, which was fantastic. These are essentially site to site. You go, you solve the scene, you piece it together. You'll have several cases that end up into one overarching story by the end. I really, really enjoyed Devil's Daughter, and I definitely plan on doing Crimes and Punishment and Chapter 1 at some point. Skylar and Plux, The Adventure of Clover Island, followed by 2 Stacks of Sleeping Dogs, which is an amazing, essentially GTA sort of open world game with an emphasis on martial arts set in Hong Kong. It is fantastic. The DLC sucks. We then have Sly Cooper, which is the games I was trying so hard to remember earlier, with the second game twice, the third game twice, the first game twice, and the fourth game twice, with the mini games being the other Sly spin-off, as opposed to Bentley's Hack Pack, which was the first one. We then have some Snake Pass, followed by some Sonic games here with All-Stars Racing Transform twice, All-Stars Racing once, Adventures, Adventures 2, Sonic CD, Sonic Forces, Sonic Generations, Sonic Mania, Sonic the Fighters. At this point, I'm going to be saying Sonic in my sleep. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1 and 2, there's no more episodes, I think they stopped releasing them for some reason, Sonic Unleashed, and Sonic World Adventure. Whew, that was a workout of the word Sonic. I don't think I've said it in my life more than that, except for I think someone else on Platinum that had the full collection, and it was incredible. It might have been Dionysus, to correct me if I'm wrong. We then have Soul Sacrifice, followed by 3 stacks of Sound Shapes, Spec Ops The Line, which is an absolutely terrific over-the-shoulder third-person shooter set in Dubai, I think, from memory. It tackles a lot of, you know, the dark side of war and conflict and stuff, which is very, very interesting. It's very, very dark. I definitely recommend that one. Kind of hard on Fubar difficulty. That's a plat I will definitely be picking up at some point myself. We then have Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions, which are the 2 Spider-Man games that if you plan on buying physically, you'll need a mortgage to put in your house. We've got SpongeBob SquarePants, The Battle of Bikini Bottom, which is the remaster of the PS2 game. This is just a big open world collectathon, essentially. Some Sports Friends, followed by the 3 Spyro remasters of the PS1 trilogy, and I've heard are very good. I need to do them myself. They've been in the backlog pretty much since their launch. Some Stealth Inc. with 1 and 2, a game of clones. I see what you did there. That's big brain. We've got some Steins Gate with the first game, followed by Zero Twice, Elite, and My Darling's Embrace. We've got Stick It to the Man, Stories The Path of Destinies, Super Hang On. We've got the Super Monkey Balls with Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, and Banana Splits, with that one also being on HD on the PS4, I guess. Super Frog, Super Deluxe, Switch Galaxy Ultra, some Tabletop Racing World Tour, Tales from the Borderlands, which is very, very good. I've heard that's another one that is definitely on my backlog. We then get into, oh, this is going to be a big one. I've talked to Madbuck quite a bit in the Discord. I know you're a fan of the Tales series. I'm going to butcher these names, so just a heads up, I'm gonna do my best, but I'm probably going to butcher every single one of them. My apologies. But we've got Tales of Arise, Tales of Berseria, Tales of Grace F twice, Tales of Hards R, Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition. Ooh, I like that one. Tales of Zillia, Tales of Zillia, Tales of Zillia 2, Tales of Zestiria. Did I get them right? That actually wasn't that bad. Maybe it's the Atelier games that have the nightmare names. We then have some Team Sonic Racing, because I just didn't need to say Sonic enough times in this video. We then have Tearaway Twice, which is like a sort of open world platformer, kind of like Super Mario 64, but the entire world is made of paper mache, which is a really interesting concept and definitely a game I really, really want to do at some point. Tekken Revolution, we've got the Sony Andrew Garfield movie spin-off games with The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I think is the one that's actually kind of pretty good. I know one of these two is actually like weirdly okay. We got The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, The Book of Unwritten Tales, The Cave, some Dark Pictures here, which is the games that are similar to Until Dawn, by the same devs, where you got a horror story and you're trying to guide characters through and determine their outcomes. So you've got Little Hope and Man of Medan. I think what the other one's called House of Ash from memory, and I think they've just released a 4th one as well, which I can't remember the name of right now. Some Deadly Tower of Monsters, followed by the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which again is that lawyer that we mentioned way back at the start of this video 6 hours ago. We then have the first Last of Us on the PS3, which is the only Last of Us. That is a list of quality, because we don't need 4,000 remakes of a game that was kind of just okay. But you've done the multiplayer, which was closed a few years ago, which is very, very impressive. Let's pray that they don't bring that to PS5 at some point. We then have the Legend series here with Trails from Zero, Trails of Cold Steel, Trails of Cold Steel 2, Cold Steel 3, Cold Steel 4, Cold Steel 479, And no, that's surprisingly it. That wasn't that many of them. I'm overreacting. We then have some Lord of the Rings War in the North, which is a really fun spin-off, like 3-person hack and slash beat 'em up, I guess, where you're a party that's essentially dictating the events of the early war of the War of the Ring. So at the same time, sort of, I think it starts before the Fellowship set off from Bree, but by the end you're sort of getting into events that are tying into, they're happening at the same time that events from the movies and the books are occurring during the War of the Ring. We then have The Messenger, which is a really fun side-on game where you play as a ninja. We've got The Order 1886, which is essentially dudes versus werewolves and a random vampire. We've got The Silver Case, The Swapper, The Testament of Sherlock Holmes. I can tell you really like Sherlock Holmes. The Unfinished Swan, which it's nearly finished, but its neck is not. That's big brain. We then get some Telltale's The Walking Dead with the first game, the entire collection, Michonne and Season 2, both of which don't have trophies. Platinum trophies rather, and then of course the final season, which I think was started by Telltale and finished by someone else, so I've heard like not particularly great stuff about that one. We then have The Witcher 3, of course. You've got to have it, it's a fantastic RPG, followed by the best Telltale game in The Walk Among Us, Thumper, Titans, Titanfall 2, which is kind of hard. You got to become the master, which you clearly did because you did in 2 days and 2 hours. Tome, which is a really fun side-scrolly sort of game where you take a lot of photos of different things. It's very, very cute. I definitely enjoyed that one quite a bit myself. Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus, the original of the reboot Tomb Raiders 2013, I think it's called, which is definitely the best one by far in my opinion. You've actually done it twice with the definitive edition here as well, but you also have some of the older PS3 ones, which were kind of where the series sort of really ran astray in Tomb Raider Anniversary, Legend, and Underworld twice. We've got another Katamari game here in Touch My Katamari, which is a Vita exclusive. Some Toho Scarlet Curiosity. A very, very impressive platinum here in Trackmania Turbo. That one is oh no, that's another chef's kiss. That's another that's a delicious one right there, and a very, very tricky one at a 0.65% completion rate. We then have some Transistor, followed by some Trials of Mana. Only one of the Trine games in Trine 2, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. It's from my continent. That's an Australian animal. It's from somewhere around here. Definitely not on the mainland though. We then have some Typewriter twice, followed by some Ultratron. We then get into a stack of Uncharted. Oh, I'm jealous of that Uncharted 400%. You've got the brutal difficulties done, which I know Ali in the Discord is currently working through as well, which are very, very tricky. Thieves' Ends 100%, I am so jealous of. Essentially, you've got to do some really shit DLC that is 100% pay to win, and very tricky. I haven't done it yet myself, Madbuck. You'll have to teach me your secrets at some point. Seriously, please and thank you. We then have the first game, obviously twice remastered. All of the Brutals have been done. And then you've also got the Vita games. So you've got Fight for Fortune, which is the weird card game that is now unobtainable, as you can see here. You've got Golden Abyss, which is the more normal, traditional sort of Uncharted that I've heard is actually pretty good. And then you have the remaster of 4 and Lost Legacy. We then have some Unmechanical Extended, followed by Until Dawn, which was the first of those horror games where you choose your own outcomes, essentially, or make decisions that affect the outcomes, I guess. Followed by Valiant Hearts: The Great War, which is a fantastic game. This is set in the First War. It's a side-scroller with various different puzzles you've got to get through. It tells the story of 4 characters from memory. I did this one last month, and this was like a 9 out of 10 game for me. I frothed Valiant Hearts. Go play it. It's free on PS Plus. We then have Velocity 2 times and Velocity Ultra, followed by the first 2 Watch Dogs. No Legion. That's a smart choice. We then have some We Were Here, some Welcome Park, which was the Vita's introductory thing, kind of like PlayStation Home was the PS3's one. Some What Remains of Edith Finch, which I actually just did the platinum for the other day. This game is one of my favorite walking sims. I was very excited to do it a second time. It's fantastic finding out all the outcomes of the different Finch family members. Will a Wonderful World, followed by the 2 Wipeout games, and then the PS3 remaster that is a combination of all of them, I believe. These are all very impressive platinums, all sub 2% with a 1.2, 1.01, and a 1.26 respectively. Kind of difficult, fast-paced, very fast races. We then get the Wonderbook Book of Spells, followed by World End Syndrome, Zero Drifter, couple Yakuzas. I predicted this when we saw the Mahjong with 0, 3, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2. The Kiwamis being, I believe, Yakuza 1 and 2. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Ukulele, which I believe was made by the dude that did Mario or something, but isn't particularly good. And then we've got the Ys series with Ys 9 Monstrum Nox, 8 in Lacrimosa of Dana, Ys Memories of Calcutta, Zero Escape the Nonary Games, and to wrap up this absolute monster of an account, Zero Time Dilemma. I'm now well done to the point where I've got like crackling. I'm absolutely cooking. But let's go have a look at the stats, shall we? So if we scroll all the way up, I'm just gonna. Oh, that's gonna be fun to watch. That's definitely gonna be fun to watch. But let's go have a look at Madbuck's stats. If we look here, if my internet loads, Australian internet for the win. But we have 643 games, followed by an average rarity, so this is how rare all the trophies are on his account, of 39.74%. Anything under 40% is phenomenal, so congratulations there. That is very impressive. For an average completion of 97.9% and an average overall of an S, which is, this is a heavyweight account, definitely. Your world rank is 3,777, and your country rank is 422, which I believe you are the UK. Yes, that is a big trophy hunting one. Much more impressive than my top 500 in Australia, where we have a fraction of the trophy hunters everyone else does. But if we look here, you started in 2008, that's essentially when trophies came out. And then you got really serious in it in 2013, and you've been absolutely kicking ass ever since. That is very impressive. You sleep in my afternoon, which is, of course, the early hours of the morning in the UK with different time zones and stuff. I'm definitely dialing in the time zones. I think I'm getting better at it. But that has been Madbuck's account. Do let me know what you thought of the account in the comments below. If you'd like your own account looked at as well, leave that in the comments below or join the Platinum Standard Discord and post it in the relevant channel there, and I will get to it at some point. We have a very big list. Now, Platinum, it will no longer come out every Wednesday or Thursday morning for the rest of the world, I guess, purely because I just have struggled to get it in during that sort of time period. I try and do it up until this point, I've tried to do it every week at a certain day. Kind of difficult to do at this point. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to stagger them in wherever. I'm wanting to ramp up my content in general as much as I can. We're doing a lot more activities in the Discord as well. So we're doing every month there's a new game. There's also a competition where you got to do all the categories on PSNP in a year, as well as a leaderboard on True Trophies. Definitely sign up for that. Don't kick me any lower on the leaderboard. My spot already hurts my feelings. But yeah, so I'm just going to try and fit these in wherever I can. There'll be a lot more sort of top 10 videos. There'll be a lot more sort of my platinum journey through games. I'm just going to nick Adam McDermott's name for that right now. That's obviously not the name of my series. But you get the point. You play through the game, you get the platinum at the end. There's a million of them on YouTube at the moment, but I'm going to do my own spin on it, much the same way I've already done in the Resident Evil 7 video and a couple others, Little Nightmares, the medium. There's been a few, but there'll be a lot more of that sort of stuff as well. There'll be a lot more top 10s, some more variety. I want to cover the PS Pluses every month, all that fun stuff. But for now, I need to go and like sit in a pond or something because I'm very, very hot. So I will see you next week. Do let me know in the comments below what your most anticipated game is for this year, 2023, and I'll have a look and I will see you next week. I miss you already. Hugs and kisses. Goodbye.